Hey all, I am Apurva.
I'm Sindhu.
We are the founders of Growth Circle.
At Growth Circle, our mission is to share inspiring stories of women following their passion.
For Women's Day, we have an exciting episode with Soundarya, who is my mentor. A few years back, when I was trying to write my own book, I stumbled upon Soundarya's journey. She wrote about her first book journey, The Story of Admitted, which I read in a couple of hours and got really inspired to start publishing my own book. Today, I'm meeting Soundarya for the first time along with my co-founder Apurva.
I mean, my story begins in a very small suburb called Patravakam in India. And somehow from there I ended up at NIT Trichy for undergrad. And from there I went to Columbia University for masters. And this was just because I wanted to see what is out there in the world beyond India. And I got the chance to go to the US on a summer scholarship even before I graduated from NIT. So that gave me a window into what life could look like in America. So went there for masters. Like many students who go there, I was obsessed with working for a big tech company. So I tried all the ones that you know of, got through Salesforce, became a product manager there. And then I realized, oh my God, this is not at all what I wanted from my life. I get more meaning writing an article than the day job that I'm doing at Salesforce. So after 2.5 years and a very long struggle with immigration, I quit my job. And then eventually got an O1 talent visa through a company that I had founded. Published 2 books, Admitted, Unshackled, and the company right now, it's doing quite well. We also merged with another startup named Green Card Inc. And we help talented immigrants get talent visas. Currently, I am working on a novel named 1,000 Days of Love. And I'm creating a course with my godfather Rajesh Sethi and trying to create a movie out of this novel. That's the big moonshot goal. Wow. Let's see. But yeah, I feel like, I've seen people who have linear careers. They do one thing and they stack on top of another. And it's very admirable for me to see that because I realize I can never be like that. I'm more of a nonlinear career growth person. Like Steve Jobs says, dots connect backwards. I think I planted a bunch of dots at random moments in the last 10 years, and maybe half of them have connected so far, and the other half I'm yet to see. Obviously, I've thought about this a lot. When was the beginning of me thinking about wanting to quit? When I go back to my journal entries, and thankfully I'm someone who's been journaling for a very long time, both on paper and then on laptop. As early as April 2019, which is a month into my job at Salesforce, I was writing journal entries like, I don't see myself doing this for a long time. I feel like the high period after you get a job, it's faded now. And now I just feel like, why am I here? I don't really see meaning out of what I'm doing. So as early as April, I began writing these things down. So I don't remember when I thought about this. But when it completely cemented this conviction that yes, I can go ahead, quit my job, and I have a calling out there, was after I self-published my first book. This was just a pet project, labor of love. For about 9 months I worked on it like a small brainchild, and then I realized after publishing, the worst day of working on Admitted, where I was like, just going through and finding typos and errors, or proof checking something, very mundane stuff.
Yeah.
Even that was still better than the peak of Salesforce, where I would get, promotion, or I would get to present in front of like VPs and so on. So I want to be clear that I'm not romanticizing everybody quit your jobs and go out there and build a company or write a book, because then the world would completely stop working. But I think I've met enough people in my life to know that people don't take risks in this very precious window of early 20s when you don't have a partner, a child, and assuming that you don't have parents who depend on you. When you can take the risk, they don't do it. And then it just becomes too late when to do it later on. So I hope more people just rethink, should I be taking more risks right now? I grew up in a pretty orthodox, conventional family in South India. My father was not on board in the beginning at all. I remember the thing is, one thing I did well was I had conditioned them for a year. A year before I quit, I began saying that, look, Amma, look, Appa, you should know I'm going to quit. That's definitely happening. But I don't know exactly when. I have to figure out some things. So they knew it's coming, but anytime I would say that, my father would be like, why? You have a high paying job. What's the problem? Or he would advise me by saying, look, I understand you want to do this, but stability is important. Take calculated risks, not risks. And so he would say all these tropes. My mom actually, she didn't really weigh in that much back then, like before I quit. But after I quit, they both knew they couldn't stop me. That's one thing. So I was, stubborn that way. They didn't support me in the beginning. It's not like they called up the next day and said congratulations.
Yeah.
It was more like a begrudging, okay, fine, whatever, you quit. But 3 months into quitting, especially when I was feeling very low, and it was in the down phase, I remember talking to my mom on a call one night. And this was a time when I didn't talk to my parents that much. I would talk to them maybe once a week, and the conversations would be like, hi, எப்படி இருக்க? How are you? Good. சாப்பிட்டியா? Did you eat?
Eat.
Yes. Okay, bye. That's it. That's the depth of our conversations, essentially. But this one call I remember because my mom called and I was feeling so low and freaking out that I just told her, I'm not sure, I'm feeling a little scared about what I did. And then she said, Pooja's my nickname. Very few people have the courage to do what you did, and I'm sure you'll figure it out. Don't stop right now, and keep going. I'm really glad you did this. That was the first time my mom openly expressed what she felt about my quitting, and it was positive. So that was like a huge emotional booster for me. Just hearing that was like, okay, I just needed to hear this. Because even if your best friend or your teacher or your mentor says something, it's not the same as your mom or dad saying it. Like, I'm proud of you. Hearing that from your mom or dad is different from hearing it from anyone else. So my mom, I think, got on board early on. Dad took, I think, only after I raised enough money for my book, and he knew that I was financially okay. Yeah. He started to see, okay, this girl is not going to be homeless. She's going to be fine. And so I think now he's full. And since I began working on Unshackled, my second book, I was writing the whole book in India with my parents actually. So they were super supportive and they saw me work hard towards writing that. And it's a good question. No, I don't think I ever thought of, I never ever thought I would go back to corporate again. Just
Okay.
Not go back to like a PM job, say. But since I quit, I've actually tried different things. As I said, I've tried to be a Notion consultant, course creator, obviously author and founder. But when I began working on 1000 Days of Love, I had a choice to write non-fiction, which is something I know quite well, or fiction, which is something I have no idea about. And I was like, I really want to try this thing because I don't know what it's like. I want to know what does good storytelling look like, and I really want to make a movie of this because I think there is a story here that's worth putting on a screen. So I think while there was no fallback plan, I also realized I wouldn't just be an author for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try many things, like what I just shared so far. Maybe in the future, I would try getting into impact investing. Mm-hmm. Trying to build a product company, which I've never done. Like Unshackled is a content company. Yes. Green Card Inc. is also a service-based company. Neither of them are product companies. So I've never done that and I want to know what does that look like. Mm-hmm. So I realized I'm more of a 0 to 1 dilettante that way. Before I met Rajesh, I was fine. I was going through life, I was making good money, I was having a good role at this big company. But after meeting him, I realized I can be happy too, not just fine. Like I can actually wake up wanting to I don't know, like seize the day, carpe diem, c'est la vie, and all these things, I realize what those things mean. And I can come to each moment with so much joy and possibilities. And I know these all sound very abstract, but it's a feeling.
So Soundarya, talk us a little bit about your upcoming book, 1000 Days of Love.
Yes, 1000 Days of Love is a novel. It is not non-fiction, although it began that way. I was inspired by a book named Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom, which was published decades ago. And I read the book a month after I met Rajesh. So I saw Rajesh in Morrie and Morrie in Rajesh, for those who know the book. And so I thought, I have to, in my lifetime before I die, or before something happens to him, I have to write a book with Rajesh, for Rajesh, on Rajesh. And it began that way, but then it became a novel last year in 2024. That's a story which I'll keep aside. But I just thought, what if I created this fictional world where there's this young girl who's 25 years old. She is lonely, depressed, and lives a very monotonous life that I think a lot of people can resonate with. And then she meets this guy who is more than twice her age. And then he takes her in and gives her this kind of love that is almost impossible to see in real life. And what happens over 1000 days between these two people. It's a love story, but it is not a love story. It's a story about love.
I really don't know what's in the book, but I'm so touched and my heart is filled with joy and gratitude. So I came to know about it only probably
last year, right?
Last year.
Yeah. I think it's going to take us 2 hours just to talk about social media because it is a double-edged sword. Like, social media, like someone said, I think it was Andrew Huberman who said, if you make social media as a person, it is the most bipolar person you're going to find. Hate and love is like right here. And the thin line essentially generally is you saying something that they think is not right and doesn't align with their worldview. And hence, you go from being someone that they admire to someone that they absolutely resent.
Yeah.
And they start to say, mean things. And I realized it's very interesting space though to observe. I mean, personally for me, more wonderful things have happened from social media than negative things. So I feel like it's still worth it to keep creating content. This would not be happening if not for social media.
Yes.
You probably saw something on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so I think, these kind of things really balance out any like hate comments or criticism. But I would just say to someone who's starting out and maybe, they're getting their first hate comment, or the first reel which is going viral, but then it's getting a lot of negative comments. I would just say, just remember that you still have people who love and care for you, who are around you. Those are the relationships that you have. This is a medium that you've been given to share messages and thoughts and opinions. That's all. And once you put it out there, there's going to be like a host of people who are going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I actually think criticism on social media is good as long as people do it in the right way. I mean, some people resort to simply insulting you, which neither helps them nor you, actually. But I actually like people who correct you and say, you know what, this was not accurate. Like, you should have said this instead. Or let me educate you on this topic. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's just that people on this side who are the toilet of the internet, I like to think of them as, because they're not adding any value except just spewing hate out there. But most of the criticism I actually think is useful. So for someone who's starting out, they should just keep in mind that social media is built this way. It is built to promote more negative things than positive things. So don't forget that someone hating you on social media doesn't mean that your family hates you. They are still there for you and they love you. So everything is marketing.
Yeah.
That's it. Good marketing equals more money equals all the other stuff. So I think if you're going to try to do anything out there, to shy away from marketing is literally shying away from anything good happening for your business. I will say that I never raised money from investors. So I don't know what that world is like at all. I crowdfunded and raised $50,000, got a grant for another $50,000, which was not based on any equity or no strings attached kind of a grant. And after that, we've bootstrapped entirely. Like we were profitable, we've bootstrapped, we've made money from community membership sales, event sponsorships. I raised sponsorship for a book tour that I did last year in the US across the country. That was actually the first countrywide tour for educating international students on immigration.
Amazing.
That was another source of revenue. Book sales, ironically enough, I would say is less than 5% of our revenue. It's just, it is like, that's the case. And so yeah, I've made money from all these different places. And I also do one-on-one consults. And that's an interesting one because people are very hesitant to charge people to talk to you.
Yeah.
And there, it's public information. So I began with, I think, $100 for 30 minutes and $200 for 1 hour. And right now it's $200 for 30 minutes and $400 for an hour. It took like 9 months, to go from this number to this number. And I was very hesitant. I was like, oh God, will people, who's going to pay $400 to talk to me for an hour? But that's where you have to tell yourself, money, it's not about what you think you're worth. No, it is about what the market will bear and what the market perceives your value as. So when I did a launch event for Unshackled, this is a great example. July 2023, I was planning the launch event. I had to set a price for the ticket for this event.
Yeah.
I was thinking, one person who I spoke to said, oh, if you set more than $50, no one's going to come because it's too much money. And then thankfully a friend of mine, Prithvi, he said, look, if you set it at $150, let's just think about it for a few minutes. Set it at $150, what happens then? I was like, no one's going to buy it $150. And $150 is so much money, like people will think I'm greedy and so on. And he's like, no, it's not about you. If you set it at $150, here's what will happen. People will expect quality that is given for an event that is worth $150, and you just have to focus on delivering that quality for them. Because when they walk out of the door, you want them to feel like, oh my God, this was worth $1,000. Forget $150. Can you do that for them? I was like, okay, and I was still very hesitant, but thank God he pushed me. We set the price at $150, and we sold out. We got more than 250 people coming to the event. People paid from $75 from early bird discounts until $150. But a ton of people paid $150. They came, they had a great time, they left. And what if I set it at $50? Look at the difference.
Exactly.
Not just the money I would have lost, but setting the price that high made me want to make the event much better than I would have done before.
Yes.
So that's how I think about money, that stop involving your emotions when it comes to money. Because it is not about you, it's not about what you think you're valued at. It's about what the market will bear and what the market perceives it as. And so you can set $10,000 for a course, or you can set $10 for a course. But if you set $10,000 and you provide value worth $1,000, no one's going to refer it.
Sure.
Just yesterday, I was rewatching Mark Rober's video on TED. He gave a TED talk. He's a famous YouTuber, and he talked about Super Mario. Have you played Super Mario when you were young?
Yeah.
That ta-da-ta-ta-ta-ta. I used to be obsessed with it, like many kids. And when we're playing Super Mario and we fall into a pit and then it says game over, we're not thinking, oh God, game over. We're thinking, okay, restart. Play again and again and again and again. Yeah, we don't worry about failure as kids and when we're playing video games, even as adults. But then, when I get a rejection from a job interview, I'm now crying. Why? It's one job interview. Go out there, try again, do something different. So I think people just forget that they just have to think about life as a game.
Yeah. And as a kid.
As women, we tend to feel jealous of each other. We don't say it out loud, but we feel. And I know this because I have gone through a life where I felt jealous of women who do better than me academically or on content creation or even entrepreneurship. But at least the last 2 years, I've learned to really rewire my brain and think differently. And so I just think there's enough forces that's stopping you from doing what you have to. So don't let jealousy be another one. Instead of being jealous of your friend who's doing well, go and talk to her and ask her, hey, what are you doing? Can you tell me how I can do this too? Can you help me? That would help you a lot more than sitting at home feeling jealous of someone else and killing your time. So
That was so honest.
I just
Thank you so much, Soundarya, for sharing amazing snippets of your journey. How often do you guys feel comfortable enough to give up your routine and take a journey on the path which is fulfilling? I'm sure Soundarya has helped us give that nudge to take and build something on your own. To hear more such stories, please join Growth Circle and stay tuned for our upcoming episodes.